the concept of fear. So, fear is a mechanism within our lives which ultimately understand it's extremely sophisticated. And when we start to become aware of the basic truth of which fear is installed within our lives to effectively manipulate the path of which we walk. So when we have an idea or we set our imagination to an existence of you could say it could be anything. It could be self-love, it could be self-success, it could be self-empowerment, it could be self, respect, loyalty. It's infinite. When we set a imagination on that intention, we will feel many emotions, but we could feel three basic core emotions. We can feel fear, we can feel stress, and we can feel worry. Now, they're the three basic foundations which will stop us or prevent us from finding this unconditional level of focus. Now, let's start with stress. Stress itself is something that can be overcome, and stress is a choice. When we choose to see that we're not meeting that level of existence which we feel we want to operate from, we will feel stress, because stress is only produced when we feel overwhelmed. Now, overwhelmed is a choice, and we can all raise above the choice of being overwhelmed with practice of learning to only accept what we feel we can do. So when we can truthfully focus our attention on what we can do and what we feel we can do, then everything else becomes irrelevant, because I'm going to focus on what I think I can do. I'm going to focus on what I can do, and I'm going to do my best ability. And everything beyond that, everything away from that is just irrelevant now. So the stress cannot come into our lives once we protect ourselves with our focus. And our focus will ultimately lead us to the next step, which is worry. Or it's probably fear, actually. So fear then comes in the middle of that. And fear basically tries to convince us of what we can and cannot do. So when we now are encountering fear, we feel the consequences of potentially failing, the consequences of not being able to meet that basic level of truth, which is self-containment, containing the self, honoring the self, respecting the self. That's when, so we've accepted the stress is no longer within us. Now we're feeling the fear of failure. If we can't do this, then, and this is where fear is metaphorically only an imagination, and it's a frequency. Not only it's a frequency which is not ourselves. It's an energetical energy which is trying to penetrate our deepest weaknesses or our weakest points, because it knows if it can come in through our weakness, and it can destroy that basic level of internal structure which is protecting us from the stress, and then that's when it can come in and erode and destroy everything. So fear itself is a choice, and when we choose not to listen to that energetical layer of thought which is only trying to come into us and destroy our ability to harness our internal structure, then that is when we can truly awaken to the reality of fear, which is fear is only a energetical frequency which is trying to enter us and manipulate us to give up our internal structure. The final thing is worry. So the worry is, I feel, greater than the fear, because worry actually comes from the internal structure. So we've dealt with the stress, we've dealt with the fear. Worry can actually take a little bit of time to get rid of, because worrying is coming from the internal structure. It's like the internal earthquakes, which if we cannot stabilize, we will destroy the internal structure, then we will welcome the fear back in. Because worry itself is much more than just any fear or any stress. Worry comes from the internal structure. We must ask ourselves some deep questions when it comes to worrying. It's, what am I worrying about? And what can I do to heal this? Because this comes from within. It's, what are we truthfully worrying about? And how can I get in a position where I can accept the truth, and by accepting the truth we can move forward and welcome a sense of self-ownership within that truth, and then we can take that ownership and lead our lives with full expression. Thank you.